Yeah, I'm standing here on the sidewalk of the City Hall Way in Nairobi, Kenya, the political and economic capital of East Africa's biggest economy, the Republic of Kenya, where the 2024 annual meetings of the Afdb will be taking place starting today, Monday, the 27th. Of course, receiving thousands of delegates from around the world, including Africa, is the President of the Republic itself, His Excellency President William Ruto, whose very huge image is standing behind me at the street junction here. He will be here on hand to receive everyone and to formally welcome all of us to this week-long event. But of course, let me describe part of the City Hall way for you where the venue really is. And you can see just by the side is part of the City Hall where thousands of delegates will be getting their accreditation for this particular very important event on the calendar of the Afdb group. And just a few meters attached to the City Hall is the office of the governor of the Nairobi County. And of course, sitting directly opposite the street is the KICC itself, the Kenyatta International Conference Center, where the week-long event, starting today, will be taking place. It's been 20 years since I was last here on these premises during President Kibaki's administration for the annual meetings of the African Securities Exchanges Association. Now, 20 years on, it's a bit of a homecoming for me to sit in the hall listening to thousands of delegates for these annual meetings of the FDB. Now, there are a number of issues on the table at these annual meetings for the rest of this week. Of course, you expect the on top of the table to be the Africa's debt profile, as well as the IMF debt relief framework for African continent. A few African countries are already in discussions with the IMF and other creditors around the world. Zambia, for example, Ethiopia, Kenya as well, the host country, as well as Ghana, including Nigeria. Then, of course, we've got to see what the conversation will be over the next few days around the global financial architecture that the EFDB president is also pushing for a reform of that to allow Africa to have more access to their funds within the IMF.
For example, one of the foremost knowledge events is what we call the presidential high-level dialogue, right? And that is made up of those heads of states that are invited to the annual meeting. African heads of state, who will interrogate these issues because they are the ones mostly affected by the skewed nature of the global financial architecture. Of course, there may be all kinds of debate from different angles as to whether or not that issue should be broached by Africans, but Africa feels that it is an area to talk about. The president of the bank, Dr. Adesina, is very passionate about reforming the global financial architecture because the way it is currently structured does not favor developing countries who need more resources than the developed world. For example, his campaign for the regionaling of SDRs to developing banks to enable them leverage 4 times $1 for more development impact is something that is one aspect of that of reform. And there are various other aspects of the reform that will be interrogated.
Then, of course, the shareholders of the EFDB will be looking at the financials of the DFI for 2023 and what the outlook will be for the current year.
There will be a lot of highlights, but I'll give you a few. But just to contextualize the meeting, the annual meetings of the banking fund represent the statutory event where the boards of governors make decisions on a number of issues. Now, those decisions will form a majority of the highlights. For example, we anticipate a decision to be made by the board of governors on the possible increase of the callable capital of the bank. That is a major highlight. And secondly, a major highlight of the annual meetings is the curtain raiser for the 60th anniversary of the African Development Bank. As you know, this year, the bank will turn 60 on the 10th of September. And the annual meeting presents an opportunity to begin the process of that commemoration. That's a very important highlight. And of course, other highlights will be the topical knowledge events that will deal with the issue of the overall theme on Africa's transformation, the African Development Bank, and the reform of the international financial architecture. And of course, a big highlight of the annual meeting is our governors' dialogue, where governors sit together. It's a whole day event this year, where 81 member countries engage among themselves, engage with management on the direction of the bank. And particularly because this year, during the annual meeting, we will be unveiling the next 10-year strategy.
Now, this is where it will all come together when the opening plenary will be taking place. This is the main auditorium where the main events and sessions will be taking place over the course of this week. Of course, there will be a number of breakout sessions taking place simultaneously within the KICC facility. But of course, from here, you will hear from key dignitaries that will be speaking at the opening plenary on Tuesday, then all through the end of the week when the closing event would also take place right here in the main auditorium. Here at the KICC Center in Nairobi, Kenya. I am Bosin Omofaye for Arise News Channel.